The sprawling galactic empire, known as the Priorian Dominion, stretched across thousands of star systems for many long ages. Its ancient rulers came from many different species, who had learned to work together under one iron rule. They controlled powerful fleets, massive shipyards, and technology that could bend space itself. Scouts from the Empire found a new young species living on a small blue world far from the main trade lanes. This world was called Earth, and the people there were humans. Humans had only just started to reach beyond their own planet. They built stations on the moon, sent machines to Mars, and tested new engines that used fusion power. Their ships could travel faster than light, but only in short jumps. The Empire watched them with calm interest. These humans seemed clever, but also weak. Their lives were short, their bodies soft, and their weapons looked like toys compared to Priorian guns. One bright day, a large Priorian diplomatic fleet appeared in orbit around Earth. The lead ship was a shining palace of metal and crystal, filled with high officers in bright uniforms. They sent a message to every human government at once. The message was clear and cold. Join the Empire, give tribute, accept our laws and leaders. You will gain trade protection and knowledge, or refuse and face punishment. The Empire had done this many times before. Most worlds listened and bowed quickly. Some fought and lost. Others begged and still lost. The Priorians expected the same from these new apes. On Earth, the leaders came together fast. They formed the Terran Concordance Council, a group that spoke for all humans now. The council chose one person to answer. Admiral Ilara Voss was a tall woman with gray hair and steady eyes. She had spent years in space, leading ships and studying old alien signals. Now she stood in the main hall on Earth and faced the camera that sent her words to the stars. She spoke in a calm voice. We have heard your message. We understand your offer. We say, no. Our home and our system belong to us alone. We will not join. We will not give tribute. We will not accept your rule. Leave our space now and do not come back. The words were polite but firm. There was no fear in her tone, no shaking, no pleading. The Priorian officers watched the message on their screens. Some laughed loud. Others shook their heads in surprise. They called humans foolish children who did not know their place. One commander named Lord Varak stood tall on the bridge of the main ship. He had crushed many worlds before. He gave the order, send one destroyer to teach them respect. Take the mining post on the small rock called Ceres. Destroy it if they resist. Show them what real power looks like. The destroyer moved fast. It was a heavy warship covered in thick armor and armed with plasma cannons. The crew felt sure of victory. Humans had no fleet strong enough to stop them. The ship jumped close to Ceres and opened fire. The mining base was small, just domes and tunnels full of workers pulling metal from the ground. One bright flash, and the whole place turned to dust and gas. 147 humans died in moments. The Priorian captain recorded the attack and sent it back to the fleet. They added words of mockery. Look how easily they break. These soft creatures will beg soon. The Empire waited. They expected screams of anger or cries for peace or ships rushing out to fight. Nothing came. No human fleet appeared. No angry messages filled the channels. For 3 full days, Earth stayed quiet. The silence felt strange to the Priorians. They were used to fear or rage, not nothing. On the 4th day, something changed. Every listening post in the Empire near the human border received a data package at the same time. The package held no words, no demands, just clean sensor readings. The readings showed one small human ship. It looked like an old cargo hauler, but it had strange dark plating that hid it from most scans. The ship had moved close to a Priorian world, called Kalis Prime. This world held a big supply station and 3 battle cruisers in orbit. It was not a main fortress, but still important. The human ship did nothing loud at first. Then it released hundreds of small drones. Each drone carried a tiny device that could make a black hole for a short time. The drones flew fast and quiet. They reached the shipyard, the depots, and the cruisers. In less than 17 minutes, everything folded inward. The station, the ships, the supplies, all vanished into tiny points of darkness that ate light and matter. No explosion lit the sky. No radiation poisoned the air. No pieces floated away to study. The destruction was clean and total. No one on the ground was hurt. The humans had struck only the military target and nothing else. The Empire felt shock ripple through its ranks. Scientists checked the data again and again. They saw that humans had made weapons using trapped singularities. Weapons the Empire thought were still many years away. Used them with perfect control. They matched the loss at Ceres exactly. One outpost for one outpost. No more, no less. Then came the second human message. It was short and cold. That action was equal payment. We gave what you took. Do not push us again. The voice was the same as before. Admiral Voss spoke without anger, without joy, just fact. Lord Varax stared at the screen, his hands closed tight. He had lost ships and men without even seeing the enemy face to face. The Emperor called an urgent meeting. The High Lords argued loud. Some wanted to send the full fleet right away. Others said wait and learn more. They all agreed on one thing. Humans were not like other species. They did not beg. They did not run. They answered force with force, and silence with silence. The stars around Earth grew tense. The Empire pulled back its scouts, but kept watching. Humanity waited too. They built more ships in secret. They trained more soldiers. They prepared plans for things no one had ever tried before. Galaxy began to whisper about the small blue world and the people who lived there. People who looked weak but acted strong. People who said simple words with iron meaning. The silence from Earth after the destruction of Ceres lasted exactly 3 standard days. Every Priorian sensor station watched the human system with growing unease. No ships left orbit. No signals came out. No fleets gathered. The Priorians had expected panic or surrender talks, or at least angry words. Instead, they got nothing. The quiet felt heavy than any shout. On the 4th day, the change came sudden and sharp. Every major listening post in the Empire, within 200 light-years, picked up the same data burst at the exact same moment. The burst carried no voice, no text, no warning, just pure, clean logs from sensors. The logs showed one single human vessel. It started as a common freight hauler with extra plating that made it almost invisible to normal scans. The ship had slipped through Imperial space without raising alarms. It reached Kalis Prime, a busy supply world on the edge of Priorian territory. Kalis Prime held a large orbital shipyard. 3 heavy battlecruisers sat, docked there for repairs. Supply depots floated nearby, full of fuel, weapons, and spare parts. The world below had military bases, but most people lived in cities far from the sky installations. The human ship stayed hidden at first. Then it opened small bays and released a cloud of tiny drones. Hundreds of them moved like a school of fish. Each drone carried one micro-singularity device, a weapon that could create a short-lived black hole. The Empire had theories about such things, but never seen them used in war. The drones flew straight to their targets. They ignored the cities, they ignored civilian ships. They hit only the military assets. In less than 17 minutes, the entire shipyard folded. The battlecruisers twisted and vanished into dark points that swallowed light and metal. The depots collapsed inward with no flash, no boom, no radiation leaked. No wreckage remained big enough to study. The destruction looked neat and careful. No one on the ground felt even a tremor. No civilian died. The humans had taken exactly the same value they lost at Series 1 outpost, gone, for one outpost gone. The Imperial analysts stared at the replayed logs in disbelief. They ran every test. They checked for fakes. They found none. Humans had built singularity weapons far ahead of what the Empire thought possible. Yet they used them with perfect measure. No greed, no rage, just cold balance. The data burst ended, and then the second human message arrived. Admiral Elara Voss appeared on every screen. Her face stayed calm. Her voice carried no heat. That action was reciprocity. We returned what you took in equal measure. A measured response. Do not test us again. The words hung in the air across thousands of ships and stations. Lord Varrock stood on the bridge of his command cruiser. His fists clenched so hard the gloves creaked. He had sent the destroyer to Ceres himself. Now he saw 3 cruisers and a full yard gone, without a fight, without warning. The loss stung deep. Emergency Council. The High Lords gathered in the Grand Chamber on the capital world. They shouted over each other. Some demanded an immediate full fleet strike. Others wanted spies sent first to learn more. All agreed on one truth. Humans did not behave like any species the Empire had met before. Most new races begged or ran or tried clumsy attacks. Humans answered silence with silence, and death with death. The Emperor listened without speaking for a long time. Then he gave orders. Pull back all scouts from human space. Double watch on the borders. Study every piece of data from Kalis Prime. Find weaknesses in their weapons. Find patterns in their moves. The Empire would not rush. They would learn first. Then they would crush. Months passed. The Priorians sent stealth probes. They captured fragments of human signals. They watched Earth build more ships in hidden yards. They saw humans test new engines and strange devices. The probes never got close enough to see details. Humans seemed to sense them and chase them away with fast interceptors. The Empire grew more nervous. Each day without human attack felt like a held breath. Then the Emperor decided enough waiting. He ordered the largest fleet ever gathered since the old wars. 1,200 capital ships, thousands of support vessels, millions of troops. They would surround the Sol system, force the humans to kneel or watch every colony burn. The fleet massed at the jump point nearest human space. The broadcast went out across all channels. This is your final chance. Surrender your worlds, accept our rule, or face total destruction. The message repeated in every language humans used. Earth received the ultimatum. The Terran Concordance Council met in silence. They did not rush to answer. No grand speeches filled the news. No crowds gathered in fear. Instead, people went about their days. Schools stayed open. Factories kept running. Engineers worked late on new projects. Families ate dinner and talked about normal things. Underneath the calm, everyone knew what might come. After 2 days, a single small courier ship left Earth. It jumped straight into the center of the massive Imperial fleet. The ship carried no weapons, no shields worth mentioning. It broadcast one last message before it broke apart in a harmless pulse of light. You have chosen to escalate. We do not fight the way you do. We do not care for territory the way you do. We care for survival. We care for cleverness. We care for spite. Every world you take will cost you far more than it gives. If you burn our homes, we will poison your stars. If you break our planets, we will tear your travel lanes apart. We have made plans for every cruelty you can think of. Do not test us. The Imperial commanders laughed at first. They called it a bluff, a desperate trick. The courier exploded in a weak flash that did no harm. The fleet laughed louder. They advanced past the Oort cloud, ready to end the matter. On Earth, Admiral Voss watched the screens in the deep command bunker. She turned to her officers and spoke in a quiet voice. They think we are cornered. They think we will fold. They do not understand yet. We never planned to win by matching their numbers. We planned to make the price too high to pay. The officers nodded. They knew the next step. Project Nemesis waited in the dark beyond Pluto, thousands of silent ships ready to wake. Humanity had not built an armada to fight head-on. They built something much worse, something patient, something unstoppable. The Imperial fleet moved closer. They expected fear. They expected surrender. They found only waiting silence. The stars around Sol stayed dark and still. But deep in the black, something began to stir. The massive Imperial fleet gathered at the jump point like a storm of metal and fire. 1,200 capital ships stood ready. Thousands of smaller vessels swarmed around them like angry insects. Millions of soldiers waited in their barracks. The Emperor himself watched from his throne room on the capital world. His advisors stood silent. They knew this show of force would end the human problem once and for all. The broadcast went out again. Surrender now or lose everything. The words echoed through human space in clear, strong tones. Earth received the message without rush. The Terran Concordance Council met in their deep bunker under the mountains. They looked at the screens that showed the approaching armada. No one spoke loud. No one panicked. They had known this day might come. Admiral Ilara Voss sat at the head of the table. She studied the fleet icons with calm eyes. She turned to her team and said, "They come with numbers. They think numbers win." Yet, across the planet, life went on in strange, quiet ways. Schools held classes. Children learned math and history. Factories built parts for unknown projects. Hospitals treated the sick. People walked in parks and talked about daily things. Yet every adult carried the weight of what might happen. News channels showed no fear, no wild speeches. Instead, calm voices explained the situation. Engineers gave live talks about new tools. Families recorded messages for loved ones. Some smiled, some cried, but no one begged or ran. The streets stayed full. The lights stayed on. Humanity refused to act afraid. In hidden shipyards, far beyond Pluto, something waited. Project Nemesis had grown in secret for many years. Ever since the first strange signals reached Earth, humans had prepared. They did not build one big fleet to match the Empire. They built something smarter. Thousands of long, dark ships slept in the cold void. These were Thanatos-class vessels. Each one stretched long and thin like spears. Antimatter-boosted engines to reach speeds close to light. They carried heavy payloads that could crack planets. They also held small machines that could build more of themselves, given time and raw material. These ships needed no crews, only simple commands to wake and hunt. The Imperial fleet crossed the outer edge of the human system. They entered the Oort cloud, where old comets floated like ghosts. Their sensors swept ahead, looking for traps. They found none. The commanders grew bold. They laughed on their bridges. They said the humans hide or flee already. The advance continued steady and sure. A single human voice broke the quiet again. It came from a hidden relay on a distant moon. The message played on every Imperial channel. Admiral Voss appeared once more. Her face filled the screens. She spoke slow and clear. "You move closer. You ignore our words. We do not want this fight, but you force it. We value life. We value thought. We value the will to keep going. You value control, obedience. You think we will break because we are few? You are wrong. Every step you take raises the price. Every world you touch costs more than you can pay. We have made ready for your worst actions. If you harm our people, we will answer in ways you cannot imagine. Do not test us." The Priorians scoffed. They called it empty talk. They pushed forward. The lead ships entered the inner system. They targeted the first human colonies on Mars and the asteroid belt. Orders came to prepare landing forces. The Emperor smiled from his throne. He saw victory close. Then the first change happened. A single Thanatos ship woke from its long sleep. It had waited in the dark between stars for years. It received the activation code and began to move. No lights, no signals. It accelerated hard using its powerful drive. It reached most of light speed in days. The Empire had no warning. Their sensors missed the thin dark shape until it was too late. The impact came fast. A continent-sized chunk of metal slammed into the Imperial supply hub at 92% light speed. The collision released energy equal to a small sun for a moment. The hub vanished in a wave of hard radiation. 3 battle groups disappeared with it. No shields could stop the blow. No defense mattered. The loss shocked the fleet commanders. They stared at empty space where friends had been. More Thanatos ships followed. They came from different directions. Some struck core worlds deep in Empire space. Others hit jump gates and trade stations. The strikes happened at the same time across hundreds of light years. Relativistic weapons ignored distance. They arrived before any message could warn. The Empire lost whole sectors in hours. Hyperlane anchors exploded in bright chains. Entire regions became cut off from the rest. Ships found themselves alone, with no way home. Panic spread through the Imperial ranks. Officers shouted orders that made no sense. Soldiers ran to escape pods that never launched. Crack on the screens. He demanded answers. His scientists had no good ones. They said the humans hid these weapons for decades. They said the attacks were planned long before the first contact. They said humans did not fight for land or glory. They fought to make sure no one ever tried again. On Earth, the command bunker stayed calm. Admiral Voss received reports. She nodded at each one. The price rises, she said. The fleet keeps coming. The cost must grow higher. Her officers worked without pause. They sent new codes. They woke more ships. They prepared the next layer of defense. The Imperial fleet tried to regroup. They pulled back from the inner system. They formed tight defensive walls. Yet the strikes continued. A Thanatos ship hit the Emperor's favorite shipyard. Another destroyed a key research station. The losses mounted fast. The Empire that had ruled for ages began to bleed from wounds it could not see or stop. Lord Varric stood on his bridge. His ship shook from distant blasts, looked at the tactical map, and saw red icons everywhere. He whispered to himself, "They warned us. We did not listen. Now we pay." The words tasted bitter. He had once laughed at the small blue world. Now he feared it. Humanity watched from afar. They did not cheer. They did not dance. They simply waited. They knew the storm had not ended. They knew the Empire still had teeth. Yet they also knew something deeper. The galaxy would remember this day, the day a young species stood against an ancient power and refused to bend. The day humans showed that courage and preparation could match any number. The day the stars learned a new truth: do not test us. The Imperial fleet pushed deeper into the Sol system. Their ships formed tight groups. Their guns stayed hot and ready. They thought the worst had passed. They thought the strange fast strikes were over. The commanders gave new orders. Land on the colonies. Take prisoners. Show the humans what real power means. The soldiers prepared drop pods. The landing craft opened bays. The advance felt unstoppable. Then the sky lit up in ways no one expected. A Thanatos ship that had waited silent for years slammed into the heart of the Imperial formation. It hit at nearly full light speed. The impact turned a dozen capital ships into clouds of glowing gas. The shockwave ripped through nearby vessels. Shields failed. Hulls cracked. Crews died before they could scream. The fleet staggered like a wounded animal. More Thanatos ships arrived from hidden paths. They came from above the ecliptic, from below, from the far side of the sun. They struck without pause. Each blow precise, each loss massive. The galaxy began to break apart in real time. Deep in Imperial space, other strikes landed. Relativistic kill vehicles hit throne worlds. Factories vanished. Military bases folded into nothing. Hyperlane stations exploded in bright chains. Whole sectors lost contact with the capital. The Emperor watched from his palace. The screens showed red everywhere. Advisors ran in panic. They shouted for retreat. They begged for talks. The Emperor stayed silent. His face grew pale. He had never seen defeat like this. On Earth, the command bunker hummed with quiet work. Admiral Alara Voss received constant updates. She saw the fleet crumble. She saw the Empire bleed. She did not smile. She did not cheer. She simply said, "The cost grows. They still come. The next layer waits." Her officers nodded. They sent final codes. Project Nemesis shifted to full action. Thousands more devices woke. Self-replicating swarms launched from dark asteroids. They spread slow at first, then faster. They ate debris. They built more. Weapons. They turned the void into a trap. The Imperial commanders tried to pull back. They ordered jumps to safe zones. Many gates no longer answered. The hyperlanes tore in places. Ships arrived in empty space or crashed into stars. The lucky ones found paths home. The unlucky ones drifted forever. Some captains mutinied. They killed officers who wanted to fight on. Others broadcast surrender calls. No one answered. The humans stayed silent. They let the fear do its work. Then came the boldest move. Human special teams called Voidwalkers prepared for months. They used captured Priorian stealth shuttles. They slipped through the chaos. They wore suits that bent light. They carried tools to change reality itself. Their target was the Imperial Palace on the core world. They landed quiet. They moved through shadows. They reached the throne room guards without a fight. They planted small devices called reality anchors. These machines hummed low. They began to twist local space-time. Explode. They slowly pulled the system toward a pocket dimension, a place outside normal reach. A slow, quiet death for an entire star system. The Emperor felt the change. The palace lights flickered. Gravity bent strange. Air grew thick. His guards screamed as walls curved inward. He ran to the main hall. He saw the anchors glowing soft blue. He tried to order them destroyed. Too late. The devices locked. The pull grew stronger. The Emperor fell to his knees. He looked at the screen that still showed Earth. He whispered words no one heard. They warned us. A broadcast opened across the galaxy. Every channel, every ship, every world. Admiral Voss appeared again. Her voice stayed calm and even. The Empire has chosen war. We have answered. We do not seek your throne. We do not want your stars. We want peace on our terms. Your fleet burns. Your worlds crack. Your people die. The price is high because you made it so. Stop now. Send your surrender, or we finish what you began. One image followed her words. View of Earth from high orbit. The blue planet turned slow and bright. No scars, no fires, just life. Untouched, defiant. Text appeared over the image in every known language. We warned you. Do not test us. The Imperial remnants broke. The surviving lords sent messages. They begged for terms. They offered tribute. They offered borders. The humans waited one full day. Then the reply came short and final. The Treaty of Solitude. The Empire gives up all claim to human space. Withdraw beyond 500 light-years. Never return. Never probe. Never whisper of conquest. No tribute. No contact. Perpetual silence. Break this and we return. Not to conquer. To end. The signing happened on a neutral station far from both sides. The Imperial delegates arrived broken, their uniforms torn, their eyes empty. Admiral Voss stood tall in simple gray. She spoke the final words recorded for history. Humanity does not seek empire. We do not hunger for your worlds. But hear this clear. If one ship crosses our line, carries threat, if one whisper reaches us of harm, we will come. Not from anger, not from greed, from simple truth. The cost of testing us is your end. Yours alone, not ours. The delegates signed with shaking hands. The treaty broadcast wide. The galaxy heard. The old empire shrank back. Ships turned home. Worlds rebuilt in fear, neutral races watched in awe. They saw what happened when an ancient power met a young one that refused to kneel. They saw humans who looked small, but struck hard. They saw a species that turned defense into nightmare. Around Sol, the stars grew quiet. The buffer zone filled with beacon relays, each one carved with the same message in 1,000 tongues. Humanity issued a stark warning to the Galactic Empire. Do not test us. The beacons flashed steady. They warned travelers. They reminded empires. They stood as silent guards. On Earth, people returned to normal days. Children played. Scientists worked. Artists created. No parades celebrated victory. No songs praised the war. Humanity simply breathed. They knew the galaxy watched. They knew fear kept the peace. They knew preparation never stopped. Deep in hidden yards, new ships slept. New plans waited. New warnings built. Just in case. Admiral Voss stood on a balcony and looked at the night sky. She thought of the miners on Ceres. She thought of the lost cruisers. She thought of the billions who paid for pride. She spoke soft to the dark. We gave the warning. They heard it. Now we live, and the stars stay ours. The treaty chambers sat on a cold, neutral station, far from any living world. The room had plain gray walls and a long table made of dark metal. Delegates from the broken Priorian Dominion arrived first. Their once bright uniforms looked worn and dull. Their faces showed deep lines of fear and loss. They sat without speaking. They waited for the humans to come. Admiral Elara Voss entered alone. She wore a simple gray uniform with no medals, no rank marks. Her steps stayed steady. Her eyes met each delegate without anger, without pity. She took her seat at the head of the table. The recording devices hummed soft. They captured every word for the galaxy to hear forever. The lead Imperial delegate stood slow. His voice shook as he read the terms. The Priorian Dominion cedes all claim to the Sol system and all human colonies. Withdraw all ships and probes beyond a buffer of 500 light-years. Agree to never contact, never observe, never interfere with humanity in any way. No alliance offered. Only silence. Perpetual non-interference. The words hung heavy in the air. Admiral Voss listened without change. She nodded once when he finished. She spoke clear and calm. Humanity accepts these terms. We sign not from weakness, but from choice. We do not want your empire. We do not seek your stars. We ask only one thing. Leave us alone. The delegates signed with hands that trembled. Ink marked the end of an age. The treaty broadcast wide across every channel, every relay, every ship. The galaxy stopped to listen. After the signing, the delegates rose to leave. Admiral Voss stood also. She looked at them one by one. Then she spoke the words that would echo through history. Humanity does not seek to rule. We do not hunger for conquest. But understand this well. If any ship crosses our line, if any signal carries threat, if any whisper of harm reaches our ears, we will act. Not from hate, not from greed, from simple fact. The price of testing us is extinction. Yours, not ours. You what we can do. We can do more. We will do more if forced. The delegates bowed low. They left without reply. Their footsteps sounded hollow in the empty hall. The beacons went up fast along the new buffer zone. Thousands of small stations floated in the dark. Each one carried powerful transmitters. Each one repeated the same message in every language known. Humanity issued a stark warning to the Galactic Empire. Do not test us. The words flashed bright against the black. They warned travelers. They reminded old empires. They guarded the quiet around Sol. Years passed. The Priorian Dominion shrank inward. Worlds that once ruled now struggled to rebuild. Fleets that filled the sky became small patrols. Trade slowed. Fear kept the peace. Neutral species watched from afar. They traded stories of the small blue world. They spoke of humans who looked weak, but fought like nothing else. They said never anger the ones from Saul. They said the warning stays real. On Earth, life returned to its rhythm. Children grew and played. Schools taught history that included the Great Stand. Factories built ships for exploration, not war. Scientists pushed deeper into knowledge. Artists filled the air with new songs. People walked under open skies and felt safe. No one bragged about the victory. No one needed to. The scars remained quiet reminders. The miners lost on Ceres. The billions who paid for imperial pride. Humanity remembered without hate. They simply moved forward. Admiral Elara Voss retired to a small house by the sea. She watched waves crash on rocks. She thought often of the days when silence answered threats. She thought of the strikes that broke an empire. She thought of the words that ended it all. She never spoke of glory. She spoke only of cost. One evening a young officer visited. He asked why humanity chose isolation over power. She smiled soft and answered, "We chose freedom. We chose to live our way, not theirs. The galaxy is large enough for many paths. We guard ours. That is all." Hidden yards, new projects, continued. Ships slept in the dark. Engines waited for codes. Weapons stayed cold but ready. Minds planned for futures no one could predict. Humanity never stopped preparing. They knew peace could break. They knew empires could forget. They kept the edge sharp. They kept the warning alive. Travelers who neared the buffer zone saw the beacons first. Bright, steady lights that carried the same words again and again. Do not test us. Some ships turned away fast. Others slowed to read the full message. They carried tales back to their homes. Tales of a species that stood small against the vast and won. Tales of people who answered arrogance with silence and force with measure. Tales that spread quiet but wide. The stars around Saul stayed calm. No fleets gathered. No probes sneaked close. The buffer held strong. The warning held stronger. Centuries later, new species rose. They heard the old stories. They asked why the great empire pulled back. They learned the answer. Worlds said no. A single voice said, "Do not test us," and the galaxy listened. On quiet nights, people on Earth looked up. They saw the same stars their ancestors saw. They felt the same pull to explore. They built new ships. They reached new places. They carried no empire with them. They carried only curiosity and care. They remembered the lesson given long ago. Strength comes not from size. Strength comes from will, from cleverness, from the choice to stand when others would kneel. The galaxy grew quiet around the small blue world, not from fear alone, but from respect for a people who issued a stark warning and meant every word. Humanity waited, patient, inventive, unafraid. The stars belonged to no one, but the space around Sol stayed theirs, forever guarded by a simple truth: do not test us.